Disclaimer: the views expressed on this episode of Perspective Platoon with Prateek are solely the opinions of the host and the guest. The content of the conversation is not reflective of the institutions or establishments mentioned therein. Take all these opinions with a pinch of salt and a dash of lime if needed. Hey Samir, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm great. How are you, Prateek?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for joining me once again. I appreciate you saying yes to that story that I'd put out sometime in November. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much
I'm
for
I'm honestly happy to have this podcast with you.
thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. So yeah, before we get started, if you could let everybody know who you are, what you do, um, likes, dislikes in everyday life, future aspirations, anything and everything you're comfortable sharing.
Okay. My name is Samir Ahmad, and I am an international student at the University of Central Oklahoma. My major is management information systems, and I have like two or three more years to graduate. I haven't calculated the exact timing yet. Um, I like to read books, but honestly, I don't get a lot of time to do that. But I'm really into reading. I don't like to party. Yeah, I don't like to party. I don't like to go to parties at all. I'm the introvert kind of guy, and um, I'm like if I had to say my inspirations. Let's talk about inspiration. I really get inspired from people like Elon Musk. Yeah.
Any sort of aspirations or goals that you're comfortable sharing or comfortable adding on?
So I want to graduate first, and then my goal is that by the age of 30, I need to financially free myself. And then I want to do things that I really want to do in life. Because
Okay, so basically,
the,
oh, go ahead.
go ahead, you go ahead.
Now, I was just gonna say, so basically, you want to be in a place financially to where you can then sort of explore your curiosities. Is that a good way
Yes,
of putting it?
yes. Explore my curiosity and the world. Like this, the universe is so big. If just to talk about that, there's so many countries we've never even seen and heard of. I want to explore everything before I go.
Okay, yeah, let's start from there then. So, when did you sort of feel like you wanted to set this as a personal goal, and why were you gravitating towards that as a goal, like to sort of seek financial freedom at a certain point in time and then be just able to explore your curiosities?
Well, you know, life is very short for me, and I want to do a lot of things. So, like, and money is a problem there. This is what runs everything. So I need to go for this. I need to chase this first, and then move on to other things. Well, the first task is very hard. Being financially free is the real target, and then it's all easy stuff. So my struggle will be till I become financially free. My goal is to be financially free by 30. Right now, I'm 22. I have 8 years. So my the thing was that, well, sometimes I read my holy book Quran, and it says that explore the world, and I went into the depths of it. Like I was really amazed how beautiful the earth is, how beautiful some places are, and I was amazed that there are so many countries I don't even know about. Like I was like, I need to go every place. I need to see everything before I die. Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Um, so yeah, I mean, this might seem like a random question, but it's sort of associated to what you said at the start, and it does kind of connect to what you just said. So firstly, why do you not like going to parties? And second of all, do you think that your sort of disinterest in parties can actually help you in terms of fueling this goal of yours to seek financial freedom?
Well, it's not that I go to parties, but I don't like going. Well, you know, something inside just told me, "Hey, man, you're wasting my time. This is not the time. The time will come, but not right now. Just work on something you really want to do, something productive or create. I'd rather spend my time on reading a book. Honestly, there's
Gotcha.
there's not something very strong. There's not very a strong thing. Just something from inside tells me, yeah, you're not supposed to be here right now. Go home."
Hmm. You make an interesting point there about something inside of you telling you to do something. Do you think that we don't listen to that voice enough? Generally speaking, as people, I'm not necessarily associating that question to yourself. If you'd like to speak to it from a personal perspective, that's fine. But also, like, just from an opinion, like, do you think that we struggle to listen to that inner voice that maybe tells you to do something or to not do something? First, and that's the first question, and sort of the sub question to that is, do you think that that inner voice is always right?
The inner voice, I don't think is always right. And then even I struggle. You know, it's your friends are calling you, "Hey, man, you need to come," and then you're telling yourself, "I don't want to go." Now it's a tough decision. So sometimes I'm like, "Hey, if I don't go, they're gonna be like, he didn't come. He's not a real friend. We said so much and this and that, but he still don't want to join us. I don't know who he think he is." You know, it's a tough decision, but I listen to it. I know people struggle sometimes, but I just have to sit for a minute calmly and think about it. You really have to hear what it's saying to you and then make the right decision. But sometimes even I will not listen to myself. Because when there's a lot of pressure, but it's something that I don't like going. And then what was the sub question?
Oh no, like yeah, like the question is sort of in the sense of do you think generally speaking, do people not listen to their inner voice enough?
I mean, can't really say anything about that other than myself, but I think everyone has his inner voice that tells them, you need to do this or not. And then it's your goals and your dreams and vision that stops you from it. You know, your inner self will tell you things. Sometimes it will tell you things that you're not supposed to be doing. If you just listen to yourself, not having anything in front of you, like what you really want to do, your long-term goal, your short-term goal, and you just listen to yourself. I mean, we we are lazy. We don't want to do anything. Humans. We just want to sit, enjoy, chill, have fun. That's what our inner self tells you to do. Honestly, myself. Let's not talk about it. That's what my inner voice tells me. But then I'm like, on the other hand, I'm like, no, I can't. When I see what I have in front of me, what I need to do, the path that I'm going, it's going this way. It's not going that way.
Right, right, right. Because that's the other thing, right? I was going to sort of bring that question up, but you sort of went there. So I'll sort of bring it up now. It's sort of also being able to separate the things that you hear internally, right? Because not everything that you hear internally is necessarily what you should be doing. Like you said, for example, you sometimes your thoughts will sometimes tell you, hey, you don't need to do that. Just, relax and
Yeah.
take a breather, don't worry about it, all that sort of stuff. So you need to be able to celebrate, or not celebrate, excuse me, separate the irrationality that comes from your inner voice and from the rationality that comes from your inner voice. So that's definitely something that I agree with 100%. To sort of add on that, do you think that you felt that your inner voice at a certain point got louder than it was before, or has it always been the same for you ever since you've sort of paid attention to it, let's say?
No, it was not always this loud. Um, uh, I mean, it starts when you have a vision, when you want to do something in life. Like w- the voice comes when there is something that you are trying to achieve. I mean, if there is nothing in your mind, there is nothing that you're not, there is nothing that you're thinking about, then nothing is going to stop you. You do whatever you want. My vision, my actions align with my vision. That's that's how I think it is. Like if I don't have a firm goal or stuff that I want to do, then I do whatever I want. I listen to myself. That is just, go to parties, have fun, go for a drive, stuff like that.
Right, right, right. Yeah, it's very interesting because I feel like, and like you said, I think there is something to add to that point in terms of hearing that inner voice a lot more when there is a certain focus associated with your vision and so on. But do you feel like certain practices of your life have maybe helped you listen to that voice a little more? And if so, what were those practices that you performed that helped you listen to that inner voice more, if you have?
I I think it's just about when when I think about, when I think more about my dreams and my goals and my desires, you know, then it gets louder. Then, for example, I need to get a 4.0 GPA this semester, and I will think about it. I will plan it, and then my inner voice, like I mean, it tries to take me off the path, but then the inner voice is strong. When I really, really want to achieve it, when I really want to do it, then it keeps me in line. It's even stronger then. It's what I think for me it is.
Gotcha. Gotcha. The reason I asked that is because I feel like, for me personally, it got a lot louder when I sort of took up certain practices like, okay, mindfulness and meditation and so on and so forth. I felt like when I started doing those things, I could hear it a lot more than I used to before.
That is true.
You can sort of, yeah, you can sort of separate the voices a lot better. Because before, if I was to sort of look at before and after, before, when you think about it, or when I think about it personally, I do feel like I could hear it before, but then it was very sort of clouded and very sort of muddled up. But after taking up those practices, I feel like I was able to separate it a little more. I mean, am I always good at it? No, like I still have my flaws. I still have points where I
Yeah.
don't listen to the right thing, that I hear internally. But overall, I definitely feel like it's become a lot louder because of those practices, which is why I thought maybe it'd be interesting to sort of talk about that a little more. Because yeah, at the end of the day, like, okay, I guess I'll ask this as a question. Do you think that it's a combination of listening to people around you and listening to your inner voice? Or do you think that it's just, at the end of the day, it's just your inner voice that is right?
I mean, the people around you will say all sorts of things. I mean, it's just pick one thing and go talk about it with different people. You will get different answers. So what I would say is listen to everyone, but then do that one thing that that you think is right, that makes the most sense to you.
Definitely, and I agree to that in some sense because you're not always aware of all experiences, but then when you speak to people, you sort of get some sort of input on some of these experiences and things that people have done that you've not done yourself. So that helps you sort of make a judgment. But at the same time, I think along with that comes you should also know that it's not going to pan out the way it did for that person because the way that person views things is going to be very different from the way you view things. So, say for person X, like this thing Y worked out. Maybe it took them like 2 to 3 years to achieve thing Y, but then you can't necessarily expect
Yourself.
thing Y to happen for you at this in the same time, right? Like it is very different to where it might take you 1 year, it might take you 5 years. And I think that's the thing sometimes we can fail to understand. Do you think that that happens to you as well sometimes when you look at your sort of goals that you have and sort of read books and talk to people, when you hear the things that they say, do you feel like you sort of set the same expectation for yourself? Or are you always able to sort of make that separation and be like, okay, it maybe took him 3 years, but it might take me a little longer or not as long? So, how's that for you? Like, do you feel like you're able to separate those two, or sometimes you feel like it's always a just a muddled thought?
I mean, I mean, you should do these two things are. I would say they're separate. I mean, it could be different for you. Could it? I mean, every person is not the same. He was different, and I am different. Maybe it will take me longer. Maybe it will take me a shorter time span to get there as compared to him. I think it really matters on how much work you put into that. And I would not expect the same thing. I would take the instructions, the directions, the guide, but I'm gonna go my own way. I'm not gonna be like, hey, if he did it in 2 years, I'm the, I would not say the same thing for myself. I will set a goal. Like if he did it in 2 years, I need to 1 year. Then I will calculate how much work I need to put into to get it done. So that's what I think about this.
Fair point, and I take it totally. Speaking of goals, are you the kind of person that sets lofty goals to where you feel like it might be a goal that you can't reach, but then by setting that lofty goal, you'll actually get a lot more closer to it than you might expect? Or are you the kind of person that sort of breaks it down into smaller goals and sort of sets them that way so that you can reach all of them without any of that sort of uncertainty of, oh, if I set a lofty goal, I might not be able to reach it? So, what is your sort of thought process in terms of setting goals?
So the thing is, what I think about this is that you need to set a goal. That is must. If you want to do something, you must set a goal. Like I am saying that I want to be financial free by 30. I don't know if I'm gonna do it. I don't know how to do it. I'm not even sure if I will be able to do it. But it's my goal. It have set into my mind. So even your subconscious mind will think about it. When I go to sleep, my mind think about it. The universe will try to find a way to make that goal come close to you if you work for it, if you want to do it. It's like a burning desire for me. I think about it. It's in my mind, and the things around you will. That is what I think how it is. That's how I believe it is. You must set a goal, and then if you really want it, if you have that desire, if you are willing to put in that work, and you don't know how it's gonna happen, you don't know if it's gonna happen or not. Don't worry. If you have done your best, don't worry. If even if it didn't come, maybe you will get something better. So this thing I actually read in a book. The book was called The Secret. Have you read it?
I don't think I have. No.
Yeah. So the book explains the law of attraction. The summary is like, when you think about something a lot, I mean, if you attract something, the other thing will attract you too. I mean, to relate to it, I can I just remember a quotation from Rumi. He says, "What you seek is seeking you." So these two things are kind of similar. So that is my perspective on this.
Definitely, I have heard that saying or that statement that Rumi's made about us, the things that we seek are actually seeking us.
Are actually seeking
Um,
us.
yeah. But with this sort of law of attraction, and this is like an alternative thought I've heard somewhere too, there is a school of thought that suggests that you shouldn't necessarily tie yourself down entirely to the law of attraction because, like you said, there might be something better in store for you. So, do you like by setting yourself up? Okay, let's put it this way. Say, as an example, you want to make. Oh, this is probably not the best example, but I'll go with it anyway. Say by the age of 30, you want to make, I don't know, $10 million, right? You're sort of thinking about that amount constantly. But then when your birthday strikes and you only see like 5 million as your bank balance instead of 10 million, do you think that that expectation you set for yourself can actually affect your outlook in terms of the money that you made? Or do you think that you're kind of the person who would be happy with the 5 million you've made rather than sort of rue about the fact that you didn't make the 10 million you wanted to make?
I like that question actually. Yeah, I will be happy because my goal was so big that even landing near to it, I'm happy with it. And I will be thankful. I will be patient. I will try to do more. Because how I think it is that if I complain and be greedy and, that is not going to get me where I want to go. I will be patient. I will be happy, and I will, I will do more. I will work more for it. I will not complain.
Gotcha. Again, just to sort of bounce off of what you said just now, do you think that complaining is bad? Or do you think that there is room for complaining in the form of, say, someone venting out their feelings or letting their feelings go?
I mean, if you're complaining and expecting someone to do something about it, you shouldn't do that. But if you just want to express and, make feel a little lighter, then I don't think it's a problem. Like two friends sitting, talking to each other, like talking about problems and stuff they have, that's totally fine. But if you're going and complaining to your professor that he didn't give you a nice grade and you're expecting that he will bump up your grade from a B to A after you complain, that's not how it's gonna be. That's not how it is. So yeah, if you want to express, go talk to someone about it. I would do that, but I would have no expectations from complaining. Well, I don't complain. I do, but to myself. That's it.
Do you feel like complaining to other people can become problematic?
It can be. I think it can be problematic if you complain too much. Like, for example, in an office setting, if you keep complaining about stuff, I mean, your supervisor could eventually get mad, and I have experienced that. I mean, there was a worker who just kept complaining, "Hey, this is not right. This is not how we do it," and other stuff. People get annoyed.
Very true. Very true. People do get annoyed in some sense. And at the end of the day, I think with complaining also comes that element of taking responsibility, right? Like sometimes we don't want to take responsibility for some things because we feel like some external factors have sort of stopped us from getting that. So, what is your sort of outlook on that in terms of, excuse me, almost sneezed there, but sort of complaining versus taking responsibility? Do you feel like we struggle to take responsibility as people? Um, and if so, why do you think that is?
I mean, me personally, if I have two options, I can complain or I can take responsibility and try to fix it. I will not complain because complaining is not gonna do anything good for me. I would go, instead of wasting my time on complaining, I would try to find a solution for it. And finding solution to anything is not a big deal. Uh, if you talk to people and you think about it, it just goes away.
Yeah, I see similarly to you in that sense, to where, at the end of the day, if your goal is to get something out of that thing that you're doing, then you should probably take responsibility and sort of work on getting that thing rather than just sitting on your hands and complaining about it. You could do both. I mean, both in the sense that you can always sort of feel a certain way about that, but at the same time, if you're
I
like,
mean,
okay, this is how I
so
feel about it. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm like, if I'm like an executive director of a company and I need to get something done and my team is gonna do for me, then I could maybe sit on this chair and complain, "Hey, why are you not doing it? You need to get it done and stuff." But if it's me, I would not do that because that's not a good example of leadership and how you run your team by complaining, you know. But but
Yeah, no, I agree totally. Go ahead.
yeah, but I would say dealing it in a better way, in a better having some effective communication with the team and being on the same page to get something done or achieving a goal is a way to go. With complaining is not gonna do anything good.
Right, right, right. And but more so from a personal sense. I guess there's also a sense of reframing complaining into maybe being a little more introspective and sort of seeing why things didn't work out the way you wanted them to work out and sort of taking responsibility and maybe using what you found through that introspection can go a long way in sort of taking you forward, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Um but yeah, like sort of bouncing off of that concept that we're just talking about and sort of superimposing it on the age of the internet. Do you feel like because of the world that we live in today, be it through public figures or like just social media communications generally speaking, do you think that people fail to take responsibility in some sense?
responsibility in like being more communicative, like making networks and connections?
No, not necessarily, but like, how do I put this? Say something happens, right? But then always like on like places like Twitter or Facebook or wherever it may be, you'll always find a section of people that may just constantly be like, oh, this is bad, that is bad.
Yeah, yeah.
But then they don't necessarily do anything about it, you know? I mean, I'm not saying everybody is that way and everybody has their own struggles to where they can't do certain things. I can totally understand that. But then sometimes you always have a certain group of people who are just willing to sort of say, this is wrong, that is wrong, everything is wrong. But then they're not trying to do anything they can to sort of fix that wrong. So my question is sort of like emphasizing on that. Do you feel like that happens a lot more now because of social media?
It does. I think it does. Everyone, like social media, like, I mean, if there is a problem on social media, and I don't think it will be in your control, and you will be able to do something about it. Mostly, some people do. Some people take action, but most people would just like to leave a comment and complain and go. Because I would say that everyone is also busy in their own stuff in life. Social media, I think this posting anything about social. I mean, you know, like politicians, uh, they post stuff and then people start arguing. That's that is happening a lot. I mean, social media have changed things now. It's just not like it was in the past. Uh, People have a voice. Things go viral. If something is true, people will get to know about it. Um, I would say that yes, social media have changed the game a little bit, and people like to complain more now rather than doing something about it. But I think it's also plays a crucial role in spreading the word. I mean, from my perspective, I might just not know about it, and there might be people who are doing good things, for that cause, just because they saw it on social media. Like, I would donate if I saw something. If there's a fundraiser for a good cause, I would go for it.
Yeah, yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Um, totally. Uh, but to sort of put a different spin on it, I guess, the fact that social media gives people that voice to sort of express certain things is actually a great thing if you look at it from the positive perspective. But do you think that sort of compare, let's compare it in terms of the negative effects of the voice versus the positive effect of that sort of the ability to speak out. Do you think that there's more positive than negative? Question number one. And question number two, do you think that we just gravitate towards the things that we're feeling about more? Like, what I mean by that is, if internally you have a negative mind space, are you going to gravitate more towards the negatives that exist on social media? Or if you have that positive headspace, are you going to gravitate more towards the positive headspace? So, yeah, what is your take on both of those questions?
So I think that everyone has a lens on their eyes that is based on on their perspective, on how they have come, how they have made their way through life, what they have seen, and people think similar things, relating to that. Like me and you will be thinking a very different thing, and posting very different stuff on social media. I think it also depends on the person. Like, I would not post on anything on social media that is like an inner thought or very personal. Or like, if I'm having a bad day, I don't want to go to social media and let people know. If I am even having a very good day, I'm not gonna go and post about it. So what I'm trying to say is, social media is like, I mean, it plays a different role for every person. I mean, if someone had a bad day and then they go write a bad post, but write something bad about, I mean, it's not gonna do anything, you know. I would rather just relax and think about it, other than letting other people know and having them worried about it. That's what I think. So I think it really depends on how you wanna do it. It will differ from person to person. But for me, no, I keep to myself. I don't want to involve my friends and other people into my stuff. I would keep everything to myself, positive and negative. I mean, if it's something positive, then I might, I might post about it. But then when I post about it, then I also think that, hey, not everyone is gonna be happy because you did this. You know, there are people who might be jealous of you, and that's not good too. And then you don't want to post negative things because, for me, it's like, I have a very big family and I have to be so careful what I post, because when I post, it goes around the whole family. Hey, Samir posted this, honestly. So that's how it is for me.
Right, right. No, totally. I get that because, especially with the sort of culture that we all hail from,
Hmm.
people just love spreading it around. So, like, basically,
Yeah.
you say something, then it goes from one person to another person to another person to another person, and then somehow it'll come back to you again
I
through
mean,
somebody else.
in Desi families, that's what happens. But if it's someone like a local person, it might be different for them. But for me, it's very different. Yeah.
Totally, totally, totally. No, I agree. I agree. And again, you said something interesting about people maybe being envious of something positive that you post. But do you feel like you have control over how people feel?
You don't? I don't think so.
Right.
I mean,
In that, yeah, go ahead.
if there is someone sitting in front of me and I can see that they're not feeling good, I can I can say a couple jokes and maybe make them feel better. But would you say if I make them laugh, I'm controlling their feelings? No. So I would say no. You don't control how they're feeling. Maybe if you have a lot of money, then you may be able to control their feeling. I mean, if a person is really sad and you buy them a Lamborghini, I mean, they're gonna be happy. You're controlling how they're feeling. They're feeling good. They're feeling good because of you. That's how you can control it. But naturally, I mean, I would like to say what you have to say about it.
No, I mean, I asked that question because I don't believe that we have the ability to control
We
anybody's
don't have the
feelings.
ability.
Yeah, we don't. We don't. So, my sort of question from that was, should you think that that should stop you from posting anything? Like, forget positive or negative, but just because you don't know how someone might feel or if they might feel negatively about it, do you think that that should stop you from, I guess, living your own social media life?
I mean, I did stop. No, I don't post a lot. I don't post a lot now because it's. different people. And I mean, I didn't really stop. I still post sometimes, but I don't post those things which could make someone feel good or bad, like neutral things.
Right, right. No, I see that. Yeah, that's fair. Um, but do you think that, like, say for example, I post something about a certain political party over here, right? And then somebody sees that and somebody gets angry. Sometimes we forget that there's an intention behind that. So do you think that we've lost the ability to see what lies behind 280 characters that someone posts on social media and the intention that lies behind it rather than, or like, is it just like, oh, I'm sure he was definitely trying to offend me, that's why he said that? Well, my intention was probably not to offend that person who was offended, but then it's sort of construed that way. So to sort of look at it maybe from a more macro sense, do you think that we've reached a point where we're unable to see the intention that lies behind somebody's actions?
I mean, it's different for everyone, but I don't see everyone having this ability to tell what is behind what is. I mean, this is the front end. What is in the back end? And in my religion, if you don't think like that, they don't even call you a human. If you can't see what's going on behind the picture, you need to think deep. You need to go into the depths. You need to see. I mean, you need to have a strong mindset and be able to say things about, like, you said, someone posted about it. You should be able to see that why they posted it. What is the story behind it? And I think everyone should have this ability, but I don't think everyone does. But because people don't care, they don't need to. But who have this ability, I think it's a very good skill to have. Not everyone has it.
Very true, very true. And I'm not saying that we'll always know what the intention is, because you never can really go inside someone's
True
head
that.
unless they tell
I
you,
agree.
you know?
I agree.
Yeah. But I think it's knowing that there is a reason why they posted it,
Yes,
and it's not just to offend you, you
just
know?
not to offend you.
Yeah, like that's what I'm sort of coming at from that sense.
I mean, I
Because
totally agree with you. Yeah, you can predict, you can think. You might be right, you might be wrong. You don't want to rely too much on it, but you should be able to get a little picture of what's going on. I
right,
mean,
right,
I don't
right.
know. It just came to me. I was thinking about it when I first heard that there is something like this that you can have. It's a skill. I didn't know how can I reach that point, or how can I feed it into myself. I mean, I just started thinking about it, and it just happened. It just happened. I mean, I can if there is someone has posted about it, I can go into the depths of it and see why they posted it. What happened. I can do a lot of research and come up with a lot of things.
Yeah, yeah. I think though, like, the problem is that we like our extremes, right? So I think sometimes it's very hard for us to sort of separate ourselves and our beliefs and even our initial thoughts. Because what happens a lot of the times is, and I mean, this has happened to me too. Say I read a tweet and my initial response, because of that stimulus and response chain, is like this very negative thought, or how could he say that, he's being so rude and etc etc. But then I guess there should be that other voice in your head that's sort of like, hey, listen up. He maybe means well, or he maybe means to say something else. Why are you getting so worked up about it? That's a sort of like the way that I look at it. Because, like, I mean, I guess it's also sort of dependent on how we respond to certain things. But a lot of the times, you will have this initial reaction to something because we are wired that way. But then I guess we can always sort of separate ourselves from that reaction that we have and maybe just think about it. Like, you don't need to spend 2 days thinking about it, but you can definitely sort of take a second, separate yourself from that initial response that you had, and sort of think about, oh, okay, maybe they didn't mean it the way that I took it. They probably totally meant it in a different way, and I just don't know. So, yeah, that's just my take on it. But, yeah, what is your sort of take on that in terms of being able to respond and sort of separate yourself from the response you have and think a little more analytically? Or not analytically, but just think about it.
I mean, you're right. How I think it is that what I do is don't be reactive. Do not react. Just watch and observe and think. Don't get angry very fast. Don't reach a certain conclusion in just a minute. See, what I do is, I mean, I practice a lot being not reactive, and I have in some cases it was not the best thing to do, but sometimes it is the best. It worked out for me, honestly. Even in conflict, I just stay neutral. Uh, uh, you can't tell if I'm angry or I'm sad, or I will not say anything or write anything that the other person might think that I am thinking negative or positive. I mean, I think that is the best thing. If there is something and you get angry, you're not gonna make the right decision, right? Not gonna think right. And if you're too happy, and that is not a good place to make a good decisions too. So what I do is just don't be reactive, stay neutral, and lead the way out of it. Don't write or type anything when you're in a certain when you're angry or you are happy. I would say give some time and think about it, stay neutral, and then see what you want to do or what you want to write.
Yeah, I agree in that sense.
I mean, Prateek, I tell people, why the hell are you so reactive? I get angry on people, even some of my friends. Like, if, for example, someone said a bad word to you, you know that they said it to offend you, and then you're getting angry and you say another bad word, and you did the same thing as the other person did. Then what is the difference between you and him? If someone say a bad word to me, I'm gonna keep quiet and go away because I don't want to deal with people. I don't even want to talk or react to that kind of person. That is my thinking. What do you think? Should you be reactive in your daily life, or you should be neutral and then think about it? I mean,
I
we are
think
humans. We are humans. Our inner self make us angry or make us sad or make us, it pushes you into some kind of thinking. But it's practice. You have to practice, right?
yeah, totally. Um, I guess I agree with you in the way of like the amount. I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to the time that you take to react to something. Because I would say that you walking away is also a reaction, right? Like you choosing to walk away and
Mm.
not giving that verbal jab back to someone is also a reaction. is basically a reaction to the stimulus that you got. But then it's a reaction that's not necessarily going to sort of build up on
Yeah.
something that already happened.
The reaction is neutral. The reaction is not,
Right. So I personally think it comes down to time. Like, take that extra second before you decide what you should do. Because I mean, I've been in that spot where I've been a very angry person in school. I've done some like things out of just being very angry, that now looking back on it, I've sort of learned from those experiences and realized that it was just because if I was angry. Like, if I would have taken that extra second and just taken a deep breath and been like, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
I know you're angry, but just take a second and think about how you should react to it. Rather than just letting your, I don't know, like your emotions sort of take over it or take over you and lead you to react a certain way. So for me personally, I get everything that you said and I agree with you. And it's basically the same thing, but maybe just a different way of looking at it. In the sense that I think it's about that time that you take between being hit by a certain stimulus and how long you take to respond to that stimulus. So at the end of the day, it just comes down to that for me. Like, if you can take that extra second to stop yourself from doing something that is just going to stoke more anger or stoke more of a certain emotion, then you're doing okay. And I totally agree. It's something that comes with practice. You're not going to be able to do that from the get go. It's going to be something that you will have to constantly sort of feed to your mind in the sense of, okay, I know I'm angry, but I won't do this. I know I'm angry, but I won't do this. And gradually that will become second nature, to where you don't necessarily have to think about the time you take to react, but it just becomes part of you as a person. So yeah, I definitely agree.
I
I
mean,
agree with everything you said.
other than the time, what do you think about, reacting? Like, there are positive reactions, there are negative reactions, and then there are reactions that take you out of the problem.
So you mean from the sense of like positive, negative, and neutral reactions? Like, what my take is on that?
Yeah, so like my example, like he said something bad about me in front on my face. Like, I wouldn't want to do the same thing to him, because if I did, I think I would be reactive, and I just wanna. What would you do?
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, and I would probably also just, I don't know. Like, it's a good question. It's making me think, in the sense that I guess at the end of the day, it also sort of comes back to experience, right? Like, I've had an experience where someone's punched me in the face and I've tried to punch them back, because sometimes your body is also trying to protect you. Like your mind is also trying to protect you. But sometimes what we don't realize is that through these mental reactions, we might be protecting ourselves, but that's more so us protecting our ego, because we feel like him or her saying a certain thing to you is not going to bring your ego down if people around you have sort of heard what that person has said. So, to sort of feel like you're protecting your ego, you're going to give them something back so that you feel like you're not the one that's being looked down upon just because you didn't react. But I think that's also a negative reaction, because at the end of the day, I mean, there is a school of thought for where, we all need a sense of ego for survival. But then you also need to know that you can separate your ego from certain situations. Like you said, you're not doing anything different if you're going to abuse the person. You're doing the same thing that they did. So at the end of the day, what's your intention over there? Are you trying to hurt this person just to feed your ego? If so, then you're doing the wrong thing. Because at the end of the day, like, excuse me, you shouldn't be hurting people, even if even if your ego has been hurt by someone.
I mean, yes, ego plays a crucial role in how you react.
Right. So yeah, that's just my personal take on it in terms of the role that ego plays. And because so, like, here's like a simple example, I guess, to sort of expand on that thought, right? Like, there's a group of kids in school, and say some kid says something to you that's very derogatory, and all the friends around you all your friends say, give this reaction like, oh, look at that, man. Like, he's so gutsy, he said that. So you feel like you will also be looked up to if you respond in a similar manner. And you then say something back because you feel like you're leveling up. So, I mean, that's something I've done in school too. Like, I'm not going to lie. I've been in those circles where around friends have said things that now I think about I shouldn't have said. But then, like, like, you realize as you grow to sort of know that you should be able to separate yourself from it. And also, I think if you learn to walk away, that'll happen a lot lesser. Because then the person knows internally that they're not going to get what they want, which is a competition or whatever it may be to feed their ego. And they'll sort of move away and try to seek it from someplace else. So I feel like it also contributes to that. Like, if you learn to walk away, you're going to sort of minimize the volume at which those things happen to you, because then the person's going to know there's no point of me trying to stoke the fire over here because he's just going to walk away. So I feel like that plays a huge role as well. Like, in terms of reacting, if you walk away, you're probably going to minimize the amount of times that happens to you again. Whereas if you were to sort of react a certain way to feed your own ego, it's going to be a thing that unfortunately will remain quite constant because both of you are feeding each other's ego. So, yeah.
So to summarize, you're saying that there is a conversation going on, and then if you say something, it's not really gonna matter. So instead of making that point and being a stupid, you should just walk away. But that will hurt your ego. But you have to control that ego.
Generally speaking, yes. I mean, there's certain situations where when it comes to defending something, and again, this is a whole another can of worms, honestly, but just to sort of put it in a more generalistic sense, I think if someone is saying something that is very wrong, I think there's always a way you can react, and I guess this would be a positive reaction. It's just sort of take a step back, but at the same time, instead of trying to inflict more damage, maybe try to sort of come at it from a different angle to where instead of saying, okay, I guess let's put it this way.
I got it. I got what you were saying. I would go for that different approach and try to find a better solution rather than being reactive, and which is not gonna help you with anything at all.
Right. Exactly. And like, in that sense, you can always reach to a solution together instead of verbally jabbing. And I think that would be a positive reaction as well. Yeah. To where you just take a step back, try to sort of talk it out. Because I think always walking away is also, well, I don't know. I guess I've not navigated this thought myself enough. But I do think that, sure, there's some places where walking away is the best thing to do. But then there's other places where you also need to stand up for yourself.
Stand up for yourself. That's true. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I have felt it. Like, I stopped being reactive. I was neutral all the time. And even for people who were saying bad stuff about me and saying, in a negative way, I was being positive to them. And then some of my friends said, "What are you even doing?" I'm not being reactive. And then, are you crazy? I mean, where did you even read this in a book and you are like applying it into your like real life? You have to react. Like, no, I'm not. I'm not reacting. It is what it is. I don't have that strong of an ego now. I mean, even if I do react, what good am I gonna do? You know, they say a few negative things about me. I say a few negative things about me. It's not gonna gain me anything. Instead, if I read this book right here, I'm gonna get something out of it. So why should I waste my time there, and why should I not spend it here? People don't get my point. People don't get my
I
point.
get it.
I gotta do what I
No, I
gotta
get
do.
it. Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. I get it what you're saying. Just to sort of go up on that standing up for yourself point, I think it's more so standing up for a certain belief. Because we've all been affected by our own experiences along the way to where we negatively feel about something.
Yeah.
But then I guess this is all sure. Now, I might have been negatively affected by something, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone should feel negative about this thing. And again, there's another conversation to be had about the many different things, but to sort of just look at it for this particular conversation, just because it may have been negative for me, it doesn't have to be negative for you.
Yeah.
And I think in that sense, if you can find a way to stand up for your belief, and instead of trying to like feed your own ego, trying to sort of meet a point where you can both find that happy medium of conversation, I think that will go a long way in certain situations. I'm not saying that this applies for every situation, but in certain situations, it will go a long way in maybe helping someone sort of come along and sort of see the bigger picture. Now, that being said, you also have to have that caveat to where, or add that caveat to where, not everybody's going to be open to that. Not everybody is going to be open to you sort of helping them see the bigger picture, but that is totally fine. You don't control that. You don't control their choice of whether or not they want to see the bigger picture. But you can always do your bit to sort of maybe help them look at the bigger picture. So it's again, it applies to different situations, so there is a nuanced take to have on that. But generally speaking, I do sort of agree with you in terms of walking away from certain things, because that doesn't need the attention that you might think would be that it's the attention that it needs. In some situations, you're better off just walking away, doing your own thing, and minding your own business. Because that's the thing. Sometimes we feel like we need to get into others' business, but sometimes you just need to mind your own business. So I guess it also sort of comes down to that. I hope I answered your question, and we sort of went into a different tangent, but yeah.
That's totally fine. I enjoyed it. I mean, I totally understand every word and every sentence that you're saying because I can relate to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but then again, I think like this is something that we learn over time.
Yeah.
I don't think if you would have asked 17-year-old Prateek, I wouldn't have responded the same way that I just did.
Of course.
So, but 23-year-old Prateek has now learned something to where I can be more, what's the word I'm looking for? Look at it from a better sort of perspective,
Angle.
if you will.
Got it.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's just something I think at the end of the day, as long as you keep yourself open, you'll be able to sort of make those changes. But if you sort of keep a closed mind, you're not going to allow yourself to make those changes and adapt.
Now you're talking about me. Honestly, I don't know what I'm gonna do in my future because I want to do everything. I learned philosophy. I love it. I want to learn more. I mean, I'm studying computer science. I'm loving it. I want to study more. I took a business analytics class. I learned great stuff. I want to learn more. My mind is so open. It's so liberal that it's hard for me to make decisions that what I want to do. Honestly,
Do you feel like that stops you from exploring what you want to explore in a certain way? Like
no, it helps me explore, but you need to have a single path to get to where you want to go. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I will still get where I want to go, but it's just that liberal mindset that, like I said, like in the beginning, I want to explore the whole world. I want to see all the beautiful places and the earth that, it's so beautiful. Some places, and to be sure, like I like to try new things, like to new concepts and innovation and creating new things and maybe inventing stuff. I have that kind of mindset.
Yeah, yeah. Sort of go back in that sort of indecisiveness that you brought up. Like, you feel like sometimes it makes it hard for you to decide what you want to take, like what step you want to take.
It does.
Do
It
you think
does.
that prioritizing what you feel is most the thing you want to go get to first can help you with that indecisiveness to be a little more decisive? So, like, to sort of maybe expand on that, say you want to do A, B, and C. If you look at A, B, and C, if you think B requires the most prior, or you want to give B your most, then you would probably put B first and then maybe A and C. So, do you feel like doing that can maybe help you in terms of taking a certain path and then maybe then switching paths depending on what's required? Do you think that that can help?
Yeah. If I have a goal in front of me, I definitely prioritize. Uh, but I don't. If I don't have I don't have a. There is no barrier. Then I would just keep exploring. I would spend a lot of time with A, then I would go to B, and then I will spend a lot of time with C. But if my goal is to, I need to get done with B only, then I have that ability in myself that I can work on the B only and not focus on A, B, and C. But there is a thing in me that's telling me when you are done with B, we should also go to A and see what A have for me and what C is holding for me and what I can learn from the D alphabet. So that sort of thing. You know, like for example, I'm I'm working somewhere. I really like it, but I can find better opportunities. But there is so much to do in that place. There is so much more to learn. Like I need to get done with this first and then move on. But there's something also inside of me, like you have learned enough, you can move on to a new thing. I mean, it makes my decisions harder for me sometimes, but I definitely prioritize what I need to get done.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the funny thing about learning, right? Like, it never ends.
It never ends.
So there's always
Never ends.
something to yeah, there's
Yeah,
always something to sort of take away from your experience, and
yeah.
maybe there's more to take away from it, like if you're gaining it more time. Totally. So
You
I get
know,
where you're coming from.
so one of the reason why I want to be done with my finances before 30 is because I want to continue learning. I want to keep learning. Uh, I my plan is that I'm gonna do masters. I'm even gonna do PhD, and then I'm in my last days, like when I'm retired, I want to teach as a professor. Uh, I like to learn. I like to read, and uh, I believe that learning. I wish everyone know this, and not everyone knows this. Learning has two parts. Uh, if you want to understand a concept, first you read it. That is one part. We call it learning, and then you teach it. If you have learned it by yourself, that's half of it. But when you teach it to someone, when you tell it to someone, when you make someone else understand the concept, it makes your concept so strong that you will hardly forget it. That's what I do. I'm always ahead of my homeworks and assignments, like 1 week ahead. And then I help other students uh, uh, with whatever they need help with. And that makes my learning way stronger.
And that's the sort of thing where even like taking, like maybe not like taking away from studies and just looking at the outside world. Say you learn something about the concept of control. When you talk it out, when you express it, when you write it, you're sort of finding a way to solidify that belief that you have about that topic. So it goes a long way. And so I get what your point, I totally get your point in terms of absorbing something in and then trying to put that out to where you sort of open yourself up to solidify that thought and maybe even learn more about it from other people. Because when you're talking to other people about a certain thing, they might have an input that you don't, and they might add to that input that you have, which solidifies your concept of that thing even more. So yeah, no, I totally agree with you in that sense. To sort of tie a bow on all of this and to come full circle, you sort of said that you want to explore the beauties that exist in this world. What are some of those beauties that exist in this world that you think we fail to see?
I mean, it could be talked into a different kind of sense. For example, the earth is so beautiful. There are some places, that are breathtaking. I really want to go unexplored places where humans have not been before. Like let's say Mount Everest. It's just something that I would want to go. It's a different kind of beauty that I have not experienced. You can say Antarctica. It's hard to go there, but when you go, it's just different. That is a place where not everyone goes, and you know how beautiful the earth is. Um, for me, like just trying to gather up that thought. Um, so like if we talk uh, in a in a day to day life, I'm trying to think what could we possibly have missed? Like um, let's say okay, something just came to my mind, but I don't want to talk about.
I mean, yeah, that's okay. That's totally fine. Not a problem. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's that thing, right? Like you said this at the start, and I think it's good to emphasize as we come towards the end.
I mean, one thing that definitely came to my mind is all those things that that we need to live and be happy in this world are free. They don't come with money. You need air, you need oxygen, it's free. You need love, it's free. It doesn't cost you money. You need water, it doesn't cost you. Sympathy, emotions, uh, none of it will cost you anything. It's just there.
I take your point definitely, and that's a very good point to sort of
Yeah.
close this section of the podcast on. So thank you so much for sharing everything that you did, Samir. I really appreciate it. We're gonna go into the word association game called Bish Bash Bosh, where I will give you 5 different words, one word at a time, and you have to respond to each word in 3 different phases or 3 different words themselves. Now, all these words that I'm going to give you are words that I've asked everybody on the podcast so far and will ask everybody that comes on in the future because it's sort of a way to see how people respond to the same words, maybe differently or similarly. So that's pretty much the gist of it in terms of what's going to happen in the segment. And for those of you interested who are listening and watching, you can always find these clips on Instagram at Random Relatability. And I will attach that link in the description or the show notes if you're listening and watching. And you can access these videos over there as well. But yeah, let's get into the segment. The first word being differences. What are the things that sort of call out to you when I say the word differences?
Do I have to be quick, or I can take some time to think?
Oh, you can take your time to think. If you feel like you want to expand on it, that's totally fine. You don't need to expand on it. But if you want to expand on it, that's totally fine.
The first word I would say is conflict, perspective, and peace.
Cool. The second word is nuance. What are the three things that sort of call out to you when I say the word nuance?
Honestly, I don't really know the meaning of it. I mean,
Okay, so
it's something that is bad, I'm guessing.
no, so what it basically means is that there is, you know how we always see things in duality, like there is either black or white?
Yeah,
But then I guess the basic definition of nuance is that there is gray. It's not always just black and white. There's always like something that exists that we are not aware of. Like just because you see things a certain way doesn't necessarily mean that that is how it exists. There's a lot to it that you probably don't see. And I would say that that is also a way of seeing nuance that exists. I was going to look it up, but yeah, I guess you're finding the definition for it. But yeah, go for it.
okay, yeah. So I was,
Don't just read off the words of the internet.
Okay, no. This has got my own take, trust me. Okay, now I
Okay.
know what it really means, so now here is my answer. I would say be patient, patience, and then believe, and the bigger picture.
I like that. Cool. The
Like
third word is learning.
learning. Infinite, rewarding, rich,
Beautiful. The fourth word is empathy.
kind, take care, be good.
Okay, cool. And the last word for this segment is similarities. What are the three things that's sort of floating in your head as you hear the word similarities?
Perspectives, goals, relatability.
Nice. I like it. I like it. Nice. That's a great way to close the segment off. Thank you so much, Samir, for playing along. Yeah. Thank you so much for playing along.
Yeah.
Just two more questions before we leave. The first one being, how do you relate to people?
Find a common ground, start off with it, and then start exploring what are the things that we have in common, and then focus on those things, uh, that you might, what I do is I focus on the things that I could gain from this person. He have this knowledge. He has it. And how can I transfer it from there to here?
Cool. That's awesome. And for the last question, which is not really a question, but it's more of a request. If you could leave everybody who's listening and watching with a positive thought or a positive quote or something that keeps you going every day, yeah, feel free to share that with the people listening and watching.
If you want to, you have a goal and you have a vision, and you want to, chase it and dream it, have it in your mind. But the most important thing is that you need to be patient with it. If things are getting in your way, you always need to be patient. You need to patient is not something that comes, it doesn't have a syllabus, or it's not something that comes directly to you. You have to practice it. If you keep practicing, one time you will get there. And then the second thing is you should believe in yourself. If you want to achieve that dream and burning desire and goal of yours, is to be patient and keep believing that you can do it.
Beautiful. That's a great thought to close off on. So thank you so much, Samir, for sharing everything that you did. Excuse me. I really appreciate it. And for those of you watching and listening, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you guys next time.